Welcome to episode 37 of Fascinating, a Star Trek podcast. Mud.
In this week's episode, the Enterprise crew come face to face with an old adversary after the ship is hijacked by an android on a mission to civilize the galaxy. With the entire crew's fate in the balance, can Kirk and Spock outwit the machines, or is it their destiny to remain forever on a forgotten planet with Harry Mudd?
Guilty party has his choice: death by electrocution, death by gas, death by phaser, death by hanging.
Good evening, Ian.
Good evening, Gerry. Which was your preferred death?
I think I'd go with phaser just for the novelty value.
Also, it would be quicker and less painful.
But I'm not sure about less painful.
Oh, I don't know. Sure, if you died instantaneously, maybe you wouldn't. Maybe it'd be like agonising.
Depends how. That's the thing, isn't it? How far away do you have to be for the phaser to be effective?
And it depends how strong the phaser beam is. I think it comes in various settings.
Yeah.
An interesting episode this week. Did you enjoy seeing the return of sex robots?
Yep. First note I have is this: they can't help themselves, can they?
It's just rampant in this galaxy.
Certainly in this episode. I think there was at least 4 occasions when it was, I was going to say implied, but more than implied. It was quite categorically stated that Mudd, and perhaps some of the, or at least one member of the Enterprise crew, would be up for a bit of android-human
intercourse.
Yes.
Are you happy to see Harry Mudd again?
I was, yeah. I mean, he's
lovable
not,
old rogue.
He is off his time, and he is not someone you would aspire to be. You wouldn't want your daughter to go out with a Harry Mudd, would you?
Or even meet a Harry Mudd,
no.
I think.
But he does have a charm. He does have a charisma about him. He's certainly got a screen presence.
A je ne sais quoi.
Yeah. When I was watching this, I'm smiling a lot of the time at him. Not in agreement necessarily with him.
No.
But he's fun.
But yeah. He serves a role. And
I think that him and Shatner, Kirk and Mudd, they play off against each other very well. There's a nice dynamic there.
You'll get to see him again in the future.
But not in this show.
No. But if we do the animated series, we'll see him there.
We're not doing the animated series.
You can't say that. You don't know.
It's a Patreon only.
Yes. If anyone wants us to do that, get in touch. Shall we go ahead and take a look at the episode?
Yes, I'm desperate to get to the sex robots. Let's crack on.
So we begin in the corridor with a walk and talk as McCoy and Spock discuss a crewman.
Yeah, McCoy is not happy with this chap. I think his name is Norman, isn't he?
Spock says it's Mr. Norman.
He's not very friendly, and he has been avoiding a medical. Yeah,
Spock gets a dig in here about McCoy's beads and rattles.
Yeah, I think that's because McCoy, firstly, he doesn't appreciate necessarily who he's talking to, and he reels off a list of attributes that aren't quite becoming, or
they concern him about Norman, but they're all also Spock's attributes. Yeah.
I think he tries to cover it by saying, "Yeah, well, you've got the Vulcan ears, so that's
normal
okay
for you." Yeah.
But we find out that McCoy's
intuition
was warranted.
Yes, because we immediately see Norman going into auxiliary control and knocking out the officer on duty before fiddling with some panels and illuminating a light that says "Danger Overload."
Can't be good.
It's unlikely to be good.
It looked as if he didn't really know what he was doing. He would just press. If we were there, that's what we would do. Try and make that break. Okay, I'll switch this, I'll turn these knobs.
Or he knows exactly what he's doing and he does it very efficiently.
Could be, yeah. Up in the bridge.
Sulu tells Kirk that an unscheduled course change is being entered from another part of the ship and he's been locked out.
Yeah, he can't correct it. Kirk then unsuccessfully tries to communicate with the Aux control room before Sulu tells him that it is on total override.
Yes, so Kirk asks Uhura to get Spock up here and asks Sulu where they're now going.
Yeah, I also think he tells
security.
Yes.
To head to the auxiliary control room.
So that's where we go, and they enter to find the unconscious officer.
Yes, and Ro, the security officer, contacts Kirk to say that the directional master controls have been jammed, but there's no sign of any intruder.
I think he also lies at this point.
Does he?
Yeah. He says he has put out an alert.
Oh, but he hasn't.
He's not at all. Well, we didn't see him doing that. He walked. We saw him real time.
Yeah.
He's at it. Oh yeah, and I've definitely captain. I'll probably get a promotion for this.
Yeah, I've put out an alert.
Literally.
I see no alert. It's just going to process through the system.
Yeah, just a little bit of
Beep,
delay.
beep, bloop, bloop. Here we go.
Yeah, propagation time.
Spock at this stage does arrive on the bridge, and Kirk very quickly fills him in on the basics.
Yeah, and I think he also tells Sulu to put in place a manual override, but this is also not possible.
Yeah, they've got a very badly designed system here. If the captain and the senior staff can't get control of the ship.
Yeah, one guy fiddling with some knobs puts them all out of commission.
Riley's done this previously. Did they not put some safeguards in place?
You'd have
Khan
thought
did
so.
it to them.
It's also interesting that Spock and the rest of them, they don't seem hugely concerned. It's almost quite... Is it intrigued by it, Spock?
Yeah, it's also a slow burn, isn't it? Until they realise, dang it.
Kirk tries to communicate with engineering, but we see it as chaos.
Yes, Norman's there, and he's been up to something.
Well, he's knocking out people left, right and centre. That's what he's up to. He's even stunned Scotty.
Well, yes, he comes into the main part of engineering, and Scotty puts up a brief fight, but it's
Very brief.
very quickly. Yes,
I've said this, I think it was last week. I'm not convinced that these guys... I think they need some more basic training in
combat,
yeah.
hand to hand. Well, they should do that sort of thing that Kirk does with the falling and the rolling.
Yes, with only a pair of tight trousers on.
Your leotard bottoms.
Bare chested.
That's what they need. A bit more of that.
Yeah, it's what the viewers wanted.
Anyhow, Scotty does at some point manage to get two communications and say, yeah, he's here.
Yeah.
I think Kirk had maybe guessed.
And did he tell him that it's Norman? Does he know who Norman is?
He doesn't even say, he just says he's here.
Okay. So back up on the bridge, Sulu is a bit worried that they have now increased, or the ship has increased speed to warp 7.
This reminded me a bit of the Changeling, where Nomad increased the efficiency of the engines and they were going about warp 74. And it's like,
Starting to break up.
yeah, slow down, hang on.
Kirk therefore goes to leave and see what's going on, tries to try and stop Norman in engineering. However, he doesn't have to.
He doesn't get very far at all, does he?
Why?
Norman comes off the lift and blocks him.
I quite liked this. He's more physically imposing than Kirk.
Yeah.
He puts out an arm and just stops him enough to say, yep, that's plenty. And I think, in fairness, Kirk understands this. He doesn't try and fight with him or...
No. You imagine that William Shatner had it written in that this guy must be a robot if he's bigger than me.
Or certainly if I don't put up a fight. I mean, I could beat, even if it was a bigger chap, if it was a human, I would
Kirk
defeat
would always
him.
take him down, yes, but not a robot.
Even though at this point he doesn't know it's a robot.
No, but it's quickly explained that Norman has taken control of the ship and rigged it to explode if they recover navigational control.
That's about it, yeah.
Spock confirms, yeah, that's true.
Kirk asks the obvious question, who are you?
Yes, and Norman starts using the plural. He says that we are no threat to humanoid life, we just need your ship. And he then pulls his shirt up to reveal a mechanical panel in his abdomen. And we get the credits, which I think is the latest we get the credits on any episode in the entire 3 seasons of Star
Well,
Trek.
that's a note I took down myself. Yeah, I think it's about 7 minutes in.
5.5.
Okay, yeah, about 7 minutes.
Yeah, it's in the ballpark of 7 minutes.
Under 10, more than 5.
Yes. When we come back from the credits, I think we're still looking at his stomach with the bleep bloops going on.
And Spock notes that it is a sophisticated android, as Norman explains that he controls the trigger relay, and any attempt to overpower him will result in the destruction of the Enterprise.
Not ideal.
No.
He then says the ship is locked on course, they'll arrive in 4 days, and he turns himself off.
Yeah, there's no discussing this.
Yeah,
Here's the situation.
There's nothing more to do. See you in 4 days.
Mess with me, we all die. Good night.
Yeah.
We have a captain's log 4513.3. It's a summary, and we are then told that they are now entering an uncharted planet's orbit.
It's basically, fast forward 4 days. Here we are, we've arrived.
Yeah.
Nothing happened in the journey.
This is interesting. I'm not sure if you noticed it. So they're on the bridge, and Norman at this point is still asleep, or he's decommissioned. Uhura thinks she firstly walks by and almost bumps into him, and then Chekhov comes in and looks at Norman, and if you look at Uhura in the background, she sort of laughs and smiles. And it didn't look as if it was scripted. It looked as if it was her reacting
almost
to...
bumped into him, yeah.
Yeah, because this chap's obviously been playing the part. They've been going through a number of takes, no doubt, and he's had to hold this position. I thought maybe that was a real sort of reaction as opposed to Uhura's character.
It's definitely possible.
Yeah.
I wonder what they did for the 4 days. Do you think they just carried on with their normal sort of shift routine and everything else? They just acted like things were normal, but we're going a different place?
I think so, yeah. I mean, it would have been interesting to hear how Kirk communicated this to his crew, because they might start to panic.
Yeah.
You know, what's going on? Are we going
We've
to die?
been captured by a robot, but please carry about your business. Do not touch the engines.
Do not touch the robot.
And do not touch the robot.
Anyway, Norman reactivates himself and informs Kirk that he, Spock, McCoy, Uhura, and a navigator, he doesn't...
I think it's Chekhov.
Yeah, but he doesn't mention it. He just said a navigator.
He doesn't name any of them. He says you, the science officer, the medical officer, the communications officer, and the navigator.
Yeah, but the rest of them are all only one person, aren't they?
I suppose, yes, you could say it could have been Sulu,
It could have been, yeah, he didn't.
who's also in this episode,
But
but it's not Sulu.
No, it's not.
Kirk suggests that rather than doing this, they have their meetings on board the Enterprise. But Norman says, no, and if you don't come, I'm destroying your engines and you'll be stuck in orbit forever.
Yeah. So Kirk sarcastically calls it a gracious invitation. And then, I think I quite like this, Norman mentions that his people don't have a word for it, but the human convention is to say please.
Yeah, he doesn't know why, but he's going to say it.
Yeah.
It's an inappropriate time to be saying please.
Well, yeah, I suppose. I mean, at least he's trying.
He's already made his demands.
Sure, but I mean, I think that it does...
It doesn't make sense that he would explain this, though. So if his programming is that humans like you to say please, why does he feel the need to explain that's why he's saying it? Why not just say it?
Don't know.
Anyway, on the surface, we're in some kind of cavern area.
Yeah.
And Norman explains this is a Class K planet, which means that to support human life, they need to have pressure domes and life support systems in place.
Now, I didn't understand. I assumed when this was mentioned that it would have significance, like it would pay off later in the episode. Like they had to, open up the dome and release some pressure or something like that.
It just means they can't go outside.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. That's fine. I understood that. So I thought, well, there must be a reason for saying this.
No.
There's not, no.
It is interesting, though, that as androids, they don't need that sort of thing. So this is entirely built to support human life.
Yeah, well, we find out later on, don't we, that they're trying to sort of learn from them.
So Norman then speaks to two identical-looking women and says that he has brought them. And the women say that he, without specifying who that is waiting and invite the landing party to go with them.
They're brought through to another room. They're granted access by these two female guards. But the fact that they're attractive twins, that's not the biggest shock.
No. Kirk's more shocked to find out who he is.
Who is it?
It's Mr. Mudd. Or Mudd the First, as he introduces himself. He claims to be the ruler of this planet and to have these androids as his servants.
I enjoy his flowery language.
Never use one word where six will do.
Kirk tries to ignore this and demands to be released immediately. However, Mudd isn't interested in what he wants, and when Kirk tries to use his communicator, he instructs Alice to remove it from Jamie Boy.
Yes, but she does, and then she crushes it in her hand.
Yeah.
A bit like Khan with the phaser. Mudd...
We should say, sorry, that Alice is the name of, well, at this point, this particular
This
android.
one woman, yes. Mudd tells Kirk there's to be no unauthorised communications, and Chekhov at this point wants to know whether Kirk has met their adversary before.
Do I know him? Harcourt, Fenton, Mudd, thief,
Come now.
swindler and conman,
Entrepreneur.
liar and rogue?
Did I leave you with that impression?
Belongs in jail, which is where I thought I left you, Mudd.
And thereby hangs a tale. Yes. But look round you, Kirk. Quite a place here, isn't it? I hope you're all going to enjoy it.
Mudd, I want that trained machine of yours, Norman, to deactivate the trigger mechanism. Free my ship.
I shall do that, Kirk, when I'm ready.
I'm telling you now.
And I do the telling on this planet, Kirk, old boy. You do the listening.
All right, I'll listen. What are you telling?
Oh, merely that you might as well start enjoying yourselves. It's really a very, very nice place. And you're all going to be here, quite probably, for the rest of your lives.
Well, that's not ideal.
No,
He's not really believable, though, is he? You don't take his threats seriously.
you don't think that he'd be the type who's going to torture or kill you if you didn't obey.
Well, I figure that he might do anything to advance his own ends, but I don't see him as a formidable, worthy adversary. Yeah.
Certainly an intellectually worthy. You'd always fancy your chances of somehow overpowering him.
Yeah, it's probably why Spock spends half this episode saying, "Oh, yeah, this plan might work." Oh dear.
Kirk again demands to be released, and again, Mudd makes it clear he has no intention of obliging, as he says it would be against the law.
Yes, his laws.
Yeah.
We then get an exchange between Mudd and Spock, which is a bit unusual.
Remind me.
So Mudd explains that he has 500 Alices, and Spock suggests this is redundant, only for Harry to respond that he has a preference for this model that Spock is not equipped to appreciate.
Yeah, he's got a seedy grin, and this is the first
Of many.
Instances where we realise that he is he's using them for more than they were built.
I imagine, unless he had them built for this reason.
Quite possibly. In fact, probably.
Bit creepy.
Definitely.
I mean, you would look down on someone who had artificial aids of this type nowadays, wouldn't you?
I think it's becoming more popular, is it not?
I don't know.
I think you can buy. We've discussed this before. I'm sure you can buy them.
When I was a youngin', it was the
blow up doll.
It was constrained to Eurotrash, essentially. That was the only place you heard about these sort of things.
Sure.
If you watched it on a Friday night.
But I do understand Spock's problem in the sense that you don't need 500 of them.
Yeah, well, yeah, even for that purpose.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got, okay, maybe you need one, a spare one when one's getting washed and cleaned. So maybe if you had 5 of them, that would do you, wouldn't it? I mean, you don't need 500 shirts or 500 pairs of shoes. You need a few.
Yeah, you can only wear one at a time.
Yeah.
Or in this case.
I mean, well, maybe in this case you can maybe wear more than one at a time. But still, 10 would do you.
You keep going up. It's like 5, 10. You might as well have 500.
Well, okay, let's call it 10.
Why do you need more than one?
Because you might want to have more than one at a time.
Yeah, we've got different models.
Yeah, but you might fancy. Anyway,
Kirk makes a reference to the previous episode that we saw Mudd in, Mudd's Women from season 1. He references that encounter.
Rigel 10, the mining incident?
The mining community, yes. Yeah. And he asks how Mudd ended up here on this planet.
Yeah, and there's some stuff about selling valuable mining patents to young civilizations.
Yeah, there's a reference here to the legality of this, and Spock concludes that Mudd did not pay royalties for the patents.
Yeah, I think he tries to bluster and talk his way out of the situation, but no one is buying it. And I think the problem is that he sold the Denabians all the rights to a Vulcan fuel synthesizer.
Yes, and Kirk wants to know who it was that caught him, having surmised that he didn't come here of his own free will.
No, so what's happened is that the Denabians have thought, oh, this is too good to be true, we better ask the Vulcans.
Yes, and it's all unravelled for Mr. Mudd.
And at this point, the
penalties that we heard at the top of the show.
Yeah, I've discussed. So we know why that Mudd's where he is now. There's a threat of death.
Yes, he's escaped from Denabian prison and stolen a ship, but as he escaped, it's been damaged and left him basically drifting until he ended up here, where the androids have taken him in and won't let him leave. Yeah,
so that's why he is where he is, and Spock assumes that he must have a very compelling motive and defying logic to bring them to him.
Yes, so Mudd's explanation is that acquiring this crew of additional humans is meant to be some sort of part exchange whereby the androids will now allow him to leave the planet and have the Enterprise crew remain in his place.
Yeah. Did you think, well, when he went to leave, I don't think he was going to take any robots with him.
I might take a couple.
How many? 10?
He doesn't
one of each?
More than one, does he?
Well, 2 of each. Let's say 2 of each.
Who knows? When Kirk challenges Mudd at this stage, they are dismissed from his company.
Yeah. I mean, he makes the point that they're going to be staying, he'll be leaving, and that's it. End of discussion.
On the way out, McCoy notices something.
It's like a shrine.
Well, it's a curtain initially, but when it is pulled back, it reveals a shrine to Stella.
Yeah. Who is Stella?
It's the wife that Mudd left behind. When he first went to space, apparently.
Yeah, apparently she was the motivation to him leaving.
Yes, yeah, to get away from her. That was his driving force.
Yeah, we have there's a demonstration of why she's turned on, I suppose.
Yeah, she's quite shrill.
Yeah, she's a caricature of the nagging wife.
Yeah, but he's obviously programmed her to be like this.
Yeah, I think it's a reminder of
why you don't want to go back.
Yeah.
McCoy asks him, why would you leave your wife and then recreate her? And he says that he had the androids build this model so he could rejoice in her absence.
He then shuts her down with a smile and revels in having the last word.
Well, we can all relate to that.
Yeah.
In the living area, or a new living area that we've not seen yet, Norman and the two Alices introduce the crew to where they're going to spend a lot of time.
But they are not programmed to answer any questions about the Enterprise.
No, Kirk continually tries to bring this up, but gets nowhere.
Norman, however, does state that he was created by his makers, who were from Andromeda, and they were humanoids.
Yes, they had these advanced robot slaves which allowed them to concentrate on a new social system.
But their civilization was destroyed when I think it was their sun burned up.
Yeah, only a few outposts survived, including the one that Norman worked on.
And so now serving Harry Mudd has given them purpose again.
Yeah, so even the humanoids that survived the sun going nova have ultimately died out. The civilization has ended.
Yeah. Norman leaves and the women inform them about their extensive library that they're free to use.
Yeah, and research labs that they're welcome to visit. And Kirk tells them to get lost, we don't like you.
I did like this. I wasn't expecting it. Yeah, Kirk thanks him for this information and tells him to leave, and they don't understand why. And he says, yeah, because we don't like you. And then he says, on you go. Bop, 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 bop. Beat it.
Cheerio.
They turn abruptly, and when gone, Kirk is unimpressed with the group opinion that they are in a lot of trouble.
Yes, both Chekhov and McCoy are of that view. Spock thinks the androids must work from a central control system. I don't know why he's made that.
One of these leaps. There's a couple of leaps in this episode.
We've already seen Norman working fine on his own out on the Enterprise.
Yeah. Kirk seems to agree with him, however, and tells him to go and find it.
Yeah, I think the basis of that is that there are many androids, but they're working with a common goal, so there must be a central organising system.
Yeah. The others are told to look around and learn all they can.
Yeah, Kirk himself is going to speak to Mudd again.
In the control room, Spock seems to have found what he was looking for quite easily.
Yeah, Norman's there and there's two Hermans as well.
Is it Herman? Okay.
Yeah.
And they admit that the device in there is their central control comp. I don't know.
Yeah, Spock's able to push him up to a point, but then his number on his collar starts flashing and he won't speak anymore on the topic.
Which Spock admits is quite understandable. Back in the android room.
Yes, Alice is explaining to Kirk and Uhura about the Barbara series and explains how they are made, which impresses both of them.
Yeah, I think Mudd's there as well, isn't he?
Yes, he says they've been designed to his personal specifications along with the Maisie series, the Trudy series, and in particular, the Annabelle series.
And we have another grin which proves that he is having sex with them.
He's obviously pushing the boundaries. Each new model's slightly younger looking.
Dirtier.
Wearing something different, yeah. Kirk asks about male androids. And Harry says that they do have some uses, he guesses.
Yeah, never really considered that before.
No.
Which again, I like Harry. He doesn't try and hide anything. He's just like, yeah, I have like 500 sex robots here. No guy wouldn't really, because I don't want to have sex with him.
No, I'm leaving and you can have them.
Yeah.
I'm done now.
Not her, not number 237. She is riddled. She's got a virus.
Yes. Uhura asks about the physical bodies of the androids, and Alice 19 says none of them has ever worn out, but in theory they have a lifespan of 500,000 years.
And goes on to explain that human brains can
No, wait, this is a different Alice. This is Alice 263 that goes on to explain.
Ah, right, okay, the other Alice, yeah. Yeah, she talks about the human brains being placed in the robot body, effectively offering eternal life and beauty.
This seems to impress Uhura.
Oh, of course, because women all want to be beautiful.
Yeah, forever.
Yeah. In the living area, Spock is about to tell Kirk about an important finding when they are interrupted by Mudd and a beaming McCoy.
Captain, I've just had a most fascinating meeting with Norman. and I'm convinced that I've discovered a very important inconsistency.
Well, I'm so glad you enjoyed it, Doctor.
Jim, you should see the research facilities. They've got a lab down there that, well, I could spend the rest of my life studying it.
I do so admire a man who devotes himself to knowledge.
Don't lose your head, Bones. Nobody's staying anywhere.
Stubborn, Kirk, stubborn.
Well, I wouldn't be bored, I can tell you that.
Let go of me now. What are you doing? What kind of a woman?
Fun, Lord.
Splendid, splendid. Welcome to Mud, Mr. Scott.
Harry Mudd. Oh, you bogus frat, you. You're the cause of all this, are you?
Scotty, you were ordered to stay aboard.
Aye, sir. And I stayed until that female gargantua threw me into the transporter beams.
What does she mean, the last one?
Didn't I tell you, Kirk? I've beamed a few dozen androids up to your ship. They've been sending your crew to the surface for the past couple of hours. They're all down now.
Are you out of your mind? You can't beam down an entire crew of a spaceship. Somebody has to be on board.
Well, there is an entire crew aboard. An entire crew of androids. They learn very quickly, Captain. The fact is, I've taken over your whole ship. There's nothing you can do about it.
It's interesting that Kirk calls it a spaceship.
Is that the first time?
No, I don't know. It's just that I've been used to him saying something like starship or a ship, but spaceship's a bit of a
Yeah, it's a bit generic and a bit
childlike.
childlike.
surface,
Yeah, not not a professional industry term.
No, I wouldn't have thought so.
Ah.
It's like calling your Navy frigate a boat.
Yeah.
Anyway, Kirk goes on to tell Mudd that he won't get away with this.
But having had him pinned against the wall, he releases him and appears now more puzzled than angry, and tells him that he will never get away with it, as Starfleet will stop him.
Yes, but Mudd now thinks he's got a ship fast enough and a crew smart enough that they'll never catch him. He leaves with one of the Alices, and we get Spock once again saying, oh yeah, it's quite a good plan actually.
Yes, but the bigger worry is that the android population could provide anything a human being could want in unlimited quantities. I'm not sure, could they?
I don't know, but Kirk certainly is concerned that his crew might be tempted to stay here. You're probably thinking back to this side of paradise when they all mutinied on him.
Yeah. Now, in fairness, Uhura has been offered eternal beauty and life, and that's fair enough. That's something you might want. It might be quite attractive and appealing. However, McCoy was turned by a decent medical facility.
Nice test tubes.
Come on, you're going to leave your career and your everything else behind just for a nice work setup.
He's making the best of it.
Yeah.
I don't think they've got any choice. Of course, this concern is never revisited for the rest of the episode.
In the throne room, we see the
This
issue.
is the worst scene.
Yeah, well, we see this issue in action as Lord Chekhov is sitting there with a huge grin on his face and being served wine by two Alices.
Yes. He laments that the women are not real, and they say, but we have, working female anatomy.
Yeah, he too has succumbed to the notion of sex robotry.
He perks up, yes.
And I think he is considering whether or not, can I do this?
Yeah, it's like me and this one go in the room. That one stands outside the room, stops anyone coming in.
Yeah.
No problems.
And I think he is swayed when he finds out that the lecherous Mudd has programmed him. He's thinking, well, if Mudd's done it, then...
This puts me off a bit. That would be like, sloppy seconds from Hanny Mudd.
But I don't think he's thinking...
Build me a new one.
Yeah.
And here's the specifications that I require.
I just think that he thinks, well, if Mudd's programmed them, they will be filth. They're up for this.
Maybe. Better than Leningrad.
In the engineering room.
Scotty is on McCoy's side of things.
Yeah, well, he's more aroused by the piece of machinery that Norman is showing him.
Chekhov was also aroused by a piece of machinery.
Yeah.
Norman explains that Scotty can have anything made for him, or, if he prefers, he can work on things himself.
Kirk enters with Mudd, and he's not pleased about how impressed his engineer appears to be.
Yes, Kirk asks Norman if this sort of playing to people's desires is part of their plan.
But Norman answers. He says that if they are to serve, they must learn that Lord Mudd was only one person, and they need more subjects to study.
We then get Kirk more irritated back in the living area by Chekhov, Uhura and Scotty, who respond to his request for a way out by discussing just how nice it is here.
So the agitated Kirk rouses them and reminds them that they don't belong in this cage, gilded or otherwise.
He tries to persuade Alice 471 to let them return to the Enterprise, and he tries his old, trusted, tested, men can always outwit machines approach.
How does he do that?
Well, he just asks her the same question in different ways, trying to justify it or explain it in a way that her programming can't cope with.
Well, I think that's it. He realises that they are apparently programmed to make sure they're happy. And so he says that, if we can't get to our ship, we're unhappy.
Yeah. You see her processing these questions and her number flashes as she thinks. At one point she says, Norman, coordinate, and then leaves.
Well, I think she also states that the Enterprise is not a want or a desire, but a mechanical device.
Yes, Kirk disagrees.
He says it's a beautiful lady, and they love her.
That's it.
Yeah, this causes her to repeat that it is illogical. And as you say, at this point, she communicates with the other units to coordinate a response.
After she goes, Kirk notes that this is interesting, and Spock notes that it's fascinating.
I think he says that they are both mentally and physically flawless.
Yes, well, McCoy's been looking into these androids and he's found no psychological weaknesses. They have a sense of purpose, and Kirk thinks that his crew could use a bit of that.
Back in the throne room, they enter to find Mudd ready to depart for the Enterprise. And he has one last interaction with Stella for old time's sake.
Yes, but he then gets a bit of a shock when Alice 2 refuses to transport his bags to the ship.
We can no longer take your orders, Harry Mudd.
Why not?
Our makers were wise. They programmed us to serve.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. Put my bags on the ship.
Harry, I think they have something else in mind.
You are correct, Captain. Harry Mudd is flawed even for a human being. We recognized this from the beginning, but used his knowledge to obtain more specimens. Your species is self-destructive. You need our help.
We prefer to help ourselves. We make mistakes, but we're human. And maybe that's the word that best explains us.
We will not harm you, but we will take the starship, and you will remain on this planet.
Now look, here, you can't do that. Now listen, to serve us, you must obey us.
No, my Lord Mudd.
Alice number 1, obey me, put my bags on that ship!
We cannot allow any race as greedy and corruptible as yours to have free run of the galaxy.
I'm curious, Norman. Just how do you intend to stop them?
We shall serve them. Their kind will be eager to accept our service. Soon they will become completely dependent upon us.
Their aggressive and acquisitive instincts will be under our control.
We shall take care of them.
Eminently practical.
The whole galaxy controlled by your kind.
Yes, Captain. And we shall serve them, and you will be happy and controlled.
Kirk mentions it later, but throughout this episode, Spock never really argues with their logic.
No. I mean, it's good of them to explain their evil plan.
Oh yeah, and give them time to come up with a solution. I'll be out from the deadly piranha fish or the laser beams.
Yeah. Back in the living area, Kirk notes that whilst they've been enjoying themselves a little bit, and there have been humorous moments with Harry Mudd, overall, they can't allow androids to take over every human in the galaxy.
No. Spock warns that they must act quickly to stop them, and Mudd angrily tells the pointy-eared thinking machine to come up with something soon. Yeah.
McCoy wants to know how Spock knows that time is short, and he explains that he simply asked. The androids don't think they can be stopped and have no need for secrecy.
Scotty has some input here.
Well, yeah, after McCoy notes that Mudd was happy enough to leave them behind, so why should they help him? Scotty notes that the androids, or all androids, he assumes, aren't capable of independent creative thought.
And so they work out that whilst there are many series of androids, there's only one Norman.
Well, yes, this comes from Spock's conclusion that the central control device isn't the central control device because it's not powerful enough.
No, they believe that each android mind is one component of a mass brain that is linked through the central locus named Norman.
Leapery.
Yes.
It comes similarly, or very close anyway, to the bugs from Operation Annihilate.
Mm-hmm.
They were all little mini parts of brain cells.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
Not only that, but they work out that the blinking necklaces that they wear is the mind in operation.
Yeah, like a computer processing.
Surely Mudd would have known this already, you know.
Well, he also hasn't cared to figure it out.
Okay.
This bit I couldn't tolerate this part. Kirk has a plan. They're going to target Norman with pure illogic, and Spock agrees that this is the only possible plan. There's no other way for them to escape other than using pure illogic to confuse the androids.
Yeah.
Brilliant or terrible, depending how you look at it. Mudd thinks this is a stupid plan.
But he does end up agreeing to help, but isn't hugely keen to find out what his role's going to be.
No, he's going to be jabbed with a hyperspray and left on a bed.
In the throne room, Kirk calls for Alice and tells her that Mudd is having a medical emergency and McCoy needs his equipment from the Enterprise.
Yes, she thinks by flashing her light bulb and is then instructed to observe. So I think that's some kind of communication with something that will give her instructions. She's not able to make a decision herself on this.
Yeah, I mean, I think she does mention, or she does ask that if he doesn't get this equipment, will Mudd die?
Yes.
So that puts her in an awkward situation as far as she's concerned, and
You
she has
can't
to
allow that.
Yeah.
She is persuaded via this link that they do need to take Mudd to sickbay.
So they return to the living area where the crew is attending to Mudd and tell Alice that he is dying, and she asks if he can be saved by taking him to sickbay.
Before anything can happen, though, Uhura steps in.
She does. She admits that it is a trick and that Mudd has been hypoed.
Alice then refuses the request to take him to the Enterprise, and Kirk questions Uhura, who says she doesn't care about saving Mudd, she wants an android body.
And apparently immediately gets her wish.
Well, Alice says before they leave, they'll program one for her. Are they all leaving then? I'm a bit confused. Because Scotty was told that there will be people there to help him make whatever he wants. But now Alice is saying before they leave, they'll make Uhura a body.
Yeah, and the whole point of them staying is so that they can observe them and learn from them. So maybe some are leaving, but where are they going and why?
And why are the ones who are staying behind not able to make the Uhura body?
Yeah.
Unless only Norman can make bodies.
With Mudd's input.
Yeah, what's Uhura going to find out when she gets this body? Anyhow, Alice leaves and
Kirk looks as if he's about to strangle Uhura.
I was disappointed with this. They spoil it.
Yeah.
They give the plan away. Not to the androids, but to the viewers. They congratulate Uhura for her performance. And Scotty notes that the androids will now think that they've made their attempt to escape. And Kirk makes a lame reference to taking the Alices on a trip through Wonderland.
Second time we've had a reference to Alice in Wonderland.
We had it in Shore Leave as well.
Yeah.
But these ones were actually called Alice.
You're right that they didn't have to spoil that. The reveal could have been
more dramatic and later.
Yes.
Yeah. We're back in the throne room where Alice 2 and Alice 118 ask Kirk what he needs. He asks only for their attention. And we get then a bizarre performance routine from Scotty, McCoy, Chekhov and Uhura.
This all went weird, and I must admit that I don't know if I'm particularly keen on this segment of the episode.
I found it loathsome.
Did you? Okay. I wouldn't go that far, but...
It's terrible.
I
didn't like it. Even if you're going to confound them with illogic. You don't need to dance and sing. And for a start, it makes the androids look stupid. They don't interrogate the presumptions. They don't act logically.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow.
Yeah, so they all come in, they're dancing and jumping, and Kirk tells them that they're celebrating their captivity.
Yes, and then they start having opposite reactions to what you would anticipate. So Uhura is pleased with Chekhov, so she thumps him.
Kirk then orders him to stand still, and he obliges by jumping up and down as the rest cheer him on, causing them again to communicate with Norman. They don't know what's going on here.
And then they all hang, essentially.
Yeah, they all flatline.
Kirk wonders how Spock's getting on in the lab.
Yeah, he's having a harder time at first.
Yeah, well, he tries a neck pinch on Alice 210, who's unaffected, and asks what he's doing.
Yeah, why are you touching me?
And he then comes up with the lamest... I'll forgive all of this stuff because I quite enjoyed Harry Mudd being in the episode, but this stuff was stupid at the end.
I didn't mind this one.
Well, he says, I love you and I hate you. I hate you because you're too similar to her.
Well, he hates one and he loves the other, but they're both identical, so there shouldn't be any difference.
Yeah, but there's no reason given why the android should care what he thinks.
They don't.
Why do they have to process the statement at all?
But they're trying to learn how humans or humanoids act and think. So they're wondering, okay, we used to think we understood them, but this doesn't.
Yeah, but instead of concluding, okay, he's irrational, they conclude we've got a problem and they crash.
Yeah.
Anyway.
In the control room, they enter.
Or in the corridor initially, aren't they? Spock catches up with the others and suggests it's time to go after Norman.
Yeah, and they all have a part to play. It's like the Sting.
They think that overloading Norman will stop all of the androids.
Yeah. So in the control room, they enter. Norman asks what they are doing, and Kirk asks him to surrender.
Yes, he says, don't be so stupid, Ant.
Yeah, I mean, I'm bigger than you, I'm stronger. Well, we are bigger and stronger and quicker than you guys, so you can't overpower us. But Kirk, he just denies it, like Trump. No, I'm bigger and stronger than you.
I'm the biggest and strongest there's been.
And he goes on to prove this by asking him if he can harm a man he is programmed to serve. Norman answers in the negative, but Mudd disagrees.
But you already have, Norman, laddie. Human beings do not survive on bread alone, you poor soulless creature, but on the nourishments of liberty. For what indeed is a man without freedom? Naught but a mechanism trapped in the cogwheels of eternity.
You offer us only well-being.
Food and drink and happiness mean nothing to us. We must be about our job.
Suffering in torment and pain, laboring without end.
Dying and crying and lamenting over our burdens.
Only
This way can we be happy.
That is contradictory. It is not logical. Mr. Spock, explain.
Why not? Logic is a little tweeting bird chirping in a meadow. Logic is a wreath of pretty flowers which smell bad. Are you sure your circuits are registering correctly? Your ears are green.
What just happened there?
They apparently killed Scotty with their finger guns and pretend phasers and making noises.
McCoy declares him dead, and Norman says it's not possible, and then Kirk comes out with something even more bizarre than what went before.
Yeah, he hams it up, which I think Shatner would have loved.
Yeah, Scotty's dead. He had too much happiness, but now he's happier, he's dead, and we'll miss him. Let's hear it for our poor dead friend.
And they all laugh and rejoice. He then has a little monologue about dreams and reality, and they all congratulate him.
Yeah, I wrote it down. What is a man but that lofty spirit, that sense of enterprise, that devotion to something that cannot be sensed, cannot be realised, but only dreamed, the highest reality? What?
I don't know. Good performance.
Yeah. Not as good as Shatner, obviously. He was spectacular. Mudd congratulates the captain as Norman struggles to process what he's seeing. They're not very robust, these androids.
Very fragile, aren't they?
Spock spends his entire life calling these people illogical, so the androids must have been running into this problem all the time.
Yeah.
Or would have done if they'd gone out in the world.
Things get crazier, however.
More and more absurd.
What happens?
Spock sets off a bomb in the throne room.
Where did they get the bomb from?
It's an imaginary bomb.
Tell me what happens here.
He picks up an invisible/fake explosive, throws it to Harry Mudd, who juggles the catch.
Catches it behind his back like Tom Cruise in Cocktail.
Then places it on the ground. And even as Norman suggests there is no explosive, it goes off.
Does Mudd not bring out a golf club?
Yes.
Give it a whack?
Like, that's how it goes off. Mudd hits it with his imaginary golf club. Kirk shouts boom, and everyone covers their ears, except for Spock, who just kind of wanders off.
And this is enough to decommission the Alice's. And then they finally push Norman over the edge.
Yes, with a paradoxical statement.
Which was?
Kirk explains to Norman that everything Harry Mudd says is a lie. Norman accepts that parameter and then is told by Mudd, I am lying. And that forms an unsolvable sort of circular argument.
And his hair goes on fire.
It does. He can't process this. His head explodes, and when Kirk refuses to explain, he goes blank.
The success means that even Mudd voices his respect for Kirk and asks him if he would consider going into partnership with him.
Kirk has another idea, however, and some time passes.
Yeah, we're back in the throne room where McCoy assumes Spock must be unhappy that after discovering a world of minds that operate like his, they were defeated by poor, irrational humans.
Spock, however, says he is quite content as there's nowhere he is needed more than on a ship full of illogical humans.
And then we find out what Mudd's fate is.
Yes, he comes into the room complaining to Kirk that he's being made to stay here longer. And Spock has a bit of an explanation.
He's going to be paroled there with a reprogrammed android. So who's done the reprogramming?
Spock.
He's not.
Scotty.
They're not android programmers.
They've figured it out.
They've not. In the space of a couple of hours?
Yes.
No chance.
Anyhow, Mudd is to stay there as an example to the androids of human failure.
I quite like that.
Kirk says, though, it's only for as long as he remains an irritant.
Which will be an eternity, I think. However, after looking around at the collection of lovelies and considering his options, he accepts a life of robot sex.
Well, he thinks he does, until his robot chaperone is revealed.
Yeah, that's the one more thing in this week's episode.
That's our Colombo connection
There we
for
go.
the week. Yes, they have activated Stella, and he cannot deactivate or shut her down.
And it's not just Stella.
No, because he spots the Stella speaking to him has a number on her.
What number?
500.
And we see about, I think, 3 or 4 coming in, nagging all at once.
Yes.
Which was a nice way to end.
Yes,
the
Mudd
episode.
tells Kirk it's inhumane, and the crew give him a cheeky wave and head off on their next adventure.
Do you think they'll come back for him?
No.
No?
No. He'll have to figure his own way out.
But he can't. He's not got a ship, has he?
Well, he can maybe get the androids to build him one.
From scratch?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why not? They can do anything they say.
That's true.
They might decide that him being on the planet's bad for the planet and we take rid of him.
Yeah.
So, did you think that was a fair resolution for him?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, he was meant to be in jail anyway, so he's still in a prison, isn't he? He's still under guard. He can't. He's not causing mischief around the galaxy.
I did find the third, or whatever number it was, the final act, a bit silly.
It was a bit silly, yeah.
And maybe lazy, I don't know, with the writing. They could have come up with something better, I think.
Possibly.
With this setup.
Possibly. But I'm not sure how... I mean, there was a visual aspect of this as well, I think that... And I'm guessing, perhaps for a younger audience, it would have been...
Yeah, it'd be humorous.
Yeah.
And they'll maybe miss the sex robot references.
No, even the younger audience would have got that.
I've actually noted as well here who helped reprogram the android, so I don't know the answer to your question.
Okay.
Any more thoughts?
No, I mean, I do like, said at the start, I do like Mudd. I do like the whole sex robot theme that runs through this. I didn't know that this is one of the things at the start, episode 1, you asked me what I knew about Star Trek. I would never in my wildest dreams have thought sex robots would have been a thread.
A recurring theme.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're possibly the recurring theme.
It's the third time, I think, anyway, at least.
At least.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, yeah, no, very, very fun episode. But I think it could have been dreadful if it wasn't for the charisma of Mudd, I think.
Well, that's right.
You
If
have to
had
get
been-
that.
Yeah.
He was in the border between being sleazy and being a complete and utter rapist type, real sex offender.
Yeah.
He had enough about him that you can't help but like the guy.
I mean, how many characters in this show have had at least one episode where they behave like a sex offender?
Most of them.
Kirk, Sulu, Scotty, McCoy,
Mudd.
Spock, Mudd, the other android guy with Andrea.
Yeah, and Mudd's women, the other ones who were buying.
All 3 minors.
Yeah.
That's at least 10 sex offenders so far.
Yeah, off the top of your head.
Yeah.
I've been more.
Chekhov.
Yeah,
in
yeah.
This one.
Yeah, Chekhov was touchy-feely before.
Rand as well at one point is a little bit creepy.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, and Chapel, I'm sure she was trying to fire into Spock.
She was.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, that's quite a lot. This episode originally aired on the 3rd of November 1967. Back on with some trivia. Stop talking about sex offenders. We were back to Mark Daniels behind the camera. This was the 10th of his 14 episodes, so not much more of him to go. If you want to hear more about him, go back to the podcast for The Man Trap, which was number 1. Stephen Candell was the writer. This was the second of his 2 Star Trek episodes. Can you remember the first?
Nope.
Mud's Women.
Ah.
In season 1. We discussed it in depth when we did that one, so go back to that podcast for more info. There were significant rewrites carried out by David Gerald, who we'll hear about in more detail later in the season. Roger C. Carmel reprised his role as Harry Mudd, the only actor in the original Star Trek series to appear as the same character in more than one episode without being part of the Enterprise crew. We discussed him in more detail also back in the episode for Mudd's Women, so again, if you want to know more about him, go back to that one. Richard Tatro, he played Norman. He only had a short screen career, including appearances in shows like Branded and The Doctors and the Nurses. He died in 1991 at the age of just 52.
As a quick glance through IMDb, and I think quite a few of them came to untimely deaths.
Yeah, there's no reason given on IMDb for his death, but certainly was at a young age. Ray and Alice Andres played the Alice series androids. Rumour has it that either Gene Roddenberry or maybe Joe D'Agosta, the casting director, literally spotted them on the street and hired them for this episode.
Talking of sex pests.
They had both appeared on TV before though, so I'm not sure whether the story stands up. Each of them has 7 screen credits which are identical to the other, and I assume they always played identical or sometimes the same character in shows like Batman and Bonanza. Alice died in 2005 at the age of 68, and Ray died in 2009 at the age of 72. Kay Elliott played the Stella androids. She also appeared in shows like The Man from U.N.C.L.E. and Bewitched and died in 1982 at the age of 53. And Michael Zaslow returned. We've already talked about his untimely early death. We did have more detail on him, but go back to The Man Trap for that information. That was episode 1. He played Darnell back then. He was Jordan in this episode. Some more general trivia. The Maisie and Barbara series androids wore outfits from Mudd's Women. You might have recognised them. This is the last episode with Sulu in it for the next 10 in production order, but
really?
They aren't aired in that order.
Ah, okay.
Other twins used in this episode were Ted and Tom Lagarde as the Herman series, Colleen and Maureen Thornton as the Barbara series, and Tamara and Star Wilson as the Maisie series. We've talked about this episode having the longest teaser in the entire 3-season run at 5 minutes 35 seconds, and the title is a play on I, Claudius. Talking of the title, around the world there wasn't a lot of variation. In Japan the episode was called Fushigi no Uchu Arisu, which means Alice in Wonder Space. It's a bad pun.
Terrible.
And the only other real variation was in German, where it was Der Dressierte Herrscher, which somewhat strangely translates to the ruler of the trained, literally, but I think a more accurate translation would be something like the slave master.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So next time we've got the 9th episode of season 2, Metamorphosis, which introduces a critical character in Star Trek history. And in the meantime, while you anticipate that, you can get hold of us on social media, where we're at Trek Podcast on Twitter, on Facebook and on Instagram. You can catch up with the episode again on our YouTube channel if you so desire. Please feel free to subscribe there. And on the website, StarTrekPodcast.com, you'll find a post up for each and every episode where you can comment with your thoughts and recollections about the original series and about these podcasts. And we hope to see you on one of those over the next 7 days.
Until then,
cheerio.
Bye bye.